Corso and Catone.
Well, listen, Mark, hold on. When I say, would you have caffeine today?
What the hell is that up to?
Presented by Special Sauce Podcast, Studio 42 Design, and Corso Law Group. Now for the real deal New England feel, Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. I'm Corso. With me is Catone, and Joe is in the booth. And welcome to our season finale, right, gentlemen? Season finale.
Yeah. Yes.
40th episode of the season, and it marks the last one of the season until we come back on July 23rd. And we're going to set you all up today for what you need to know until we get back. But we know you're with us on YouTube, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, hey, wherever you podcast, and check us out on Twitter, at Corso _ Catone, and of course, Heated Hotline 855-313-PATS, 855-313-7287. The reason I'm telling you about the Heated Hotline in the season finale, you may be saying, what the hell is he telling me about the Heated Hotline now? What we call it? Because next week we're going to have a bonus show. And that's going to be, a bonus show, Mark. And I don't know if did you know about this, Mark?
Listen, I don't know anything. You let me know last minute.
Mark's going to call his travel agent.
Because he's always falling off ladders and breaking his wrists and stuff like that. So, no, we're going to have our sports superstition show. So, we want
you mean the reason why the Celtics lost the championship?
Yeah. See, and you can bring that up, Mark, next week. And you can bring that up next week. And everybody out there, we want you calling. We want you emailing. Joe, throw up the email, too, when you get a chance. corso.catone@gmail.com. So call us 24/7 between now and next week. We want to hear your sports superstitions, whether it be when you played, now when you're watching sports, as a youth. Doesn't matter how silly, how ridiculous, how disgusting it is. We want to hear it all. So make sure you give us a call, 855-313-PATS, and of course, email corso.catone@gmail.com. But we have this show to do, and we have a good one. So we're going to go Yankees versus Red Sox. Of course, Catone's comments. You never want to miss that. We're going to hear from one of you in Heated Hotline. And in the real deal, hey, let's get prepared for training camp. So, guys, lots to do, lots to talk about. How are we doing this week?
Oh, you know it.
We're ready. We're ready to roll.
Joe, he doesn't seem like he has a lot of energy today.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Wait till you hear Catone's comments.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be blaming me for something again, But all right, guys, are we ready for Yankees Red Sox?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it.
I just love that. I just want to see them go at it one more time.
You want to play it again?
No. I want to see the Red Sox and the Yankees finally, get to that series again. You know what I mean?
Well, they got one coming up, right? They got two series coming up.
The Red Sox starting July 4th. We're going to see what they're made out of because they played the next 18 games of Yankees, Rays, Blue Jays. The next 18 games over a 3.5 week stretch. So we're going to see. That's probably going to make or break their season, right? Yeah, whether they're a wild card team or not.
They got the Yankees, Rays, then Yankees again.
And then they get the Blue Jays.
And the Blue Jays. Yeah, so let's start with that, Mark. Let's start with the Red Sox then. And let's talk about, because you hear everybody around town talking about they're making a push. They're coming. They're only.
And listen, they played the Little Sisters of the Poor leading up to the last two. I mean, come on. I don't know if you've watched many Anaheim Angel games. Listen.
He saved it for the finale.
Oh, boy.
I don't know if you've watched.
You just retitled the show.
That's it.
I don't know if you've watched any of the Anaheim Angels, Chris. They're what you want to talk about. They got Trout, Ohtani, and a bunch of guys I've never heard of. They're bad.
Yeah.
Okay, they're bad. They played the A's are horrible. Absolutely. Like they play some real poor teams. So they went 10-1. They went 10-1 on that road trip to the West Coast.
Right.
But those West Coast teams are all their records are worse than the Red Sox. Like you play bad. The American League, Chris, is a bad league. I'm just going to put it out there. There's a lot of bad teams in the American League. If you watch the National League has overall better teams in the American League. So yeah, so the Red Sox went on a roll, but let's see what they're made out of against teams that actually have winning records now. It's going to tell us a lot about them.
Well, talking about specifically now within the roster, because again, you listen around and you hear everybody talking about, well, what moves can they make? And they made a couple of them last week, but what kind of moves should they make? What can they do? What should they do? To me, when I look at this, Mark, they're hitting okay. I mean, if you take away the beginning portion of that season, where they were just atrocious, they've played, they're playing good ball. They're hitting the ball. They're getting some timely hitting, and they're winning games when you saw after 6 innings. Remember the stat we gave a couple of weeks ago? They were like
they're the worst team in baseball,
right? After 6. Well, now you're starting to see them come around a little bit on that. They've blown a couple, but it looks like Franchi Cordero's playing better. Dahlbach, they're hitting the ball. They're playing first base a little better. We'll talk about Sale in a second, but is it defensively where they need the help in the outfield, or is in the hitting okay? Or what should they be buying also at the deadline?
I still think that if you get, they've been getting some underrated starting pitching. I don't think people realize, if you look at their starting pitching stats, their starting pitching is actually in the upper half of the league. So their starters have actually given them some real solid outings. The issue still, I think, is the bullpen. Even the games that they've been winning, Chris, late in games, the ninth inning is still it's almost like they're dodging bullets. They're always got the closer's always putting some guys on base. They won a game out in Seattle a couple of weeks ago. They had men on second and third. Guy hits the ball. You couldn't hit it any harder. He happens to hit it right at the second baseman. Yeah. So they got a couple of timely breaks, but I still think they need bullpen help if they want to do anything this season. I think the trade deadline, you still need to work on that bullpen.
Do you think Story? Because everybody was like, "Oh, Story's playing better," and you were pretty damn accurate on where these people, they speak in generalities, and they don't. It's not specific. And you talked about where he's hitting the ball.
I'm not impressed with his plate coverage at all. Yeah, I'm still not impressed with his plate coverage.
Hasn't improved in your eyes at this point. So a defensive, because when I look at this team, I look at the defense, and the defense has been poor, especially in the outfield. They've had issues. And do you make a move that brings a defensive outfielder in and not worry so much about the hitting with that player? Or is it worth doing something like that with the record they have? Because I think they're going to make the wild card.
They'll make the wild card, absolutely.
Which I don't know if that's saying much. No. And we'll see, like you say, coming up in the next few days, the next week or so, what kind of mettle they have against the big guys like the Yankees. And so
do you think they need defensive help, or do you think if they just made some moves to solidify the bullpen? Now, talking about the bullpen, you mentioned Sale. So Sale's coming back. So what do you do with him? Do you put him in the back end of that bullpen and say, listen, you're only going to throw 20 pitches an outing, get yourself strong. We don't need you to start. Our starters are fine, but you may eventually become either an 8th inning guy or maybe a 9th inning guy, and you're unhittable for us, and we don't got to worry about the back end of the bullpen. Or do they move Whitlock back there, Chris? Do they go back to him? Because he was dominant out of the bullpen at one point. I know he's on injured reserve right now, but
Whitlock was pitching well in an opening role. You know what I mean? When they used them there. Here's the problem with, first of all, let me preface this by saying I don't think Sale's going to pitch an actual meaningful inning for them. Because if they so if they start him, you'll play him against like Baltimore or somebody like that, and he'll look good. And then when you play him against, then something's going to happen. He's going to feel a twinge, some kind of little thing.
I don't think you can stretch him out this year. I think you got to limit his number of pitches. That's why I'm thinking bullpen maybe, right?
The only problem with doing that with a guy like him is, can he get ready quick enough? Can he get ready in 10 minutes? First of all, does he have the mental state, to be able to come out of it, because it takes a certain mental deal,
And that's a good point.
to be able to do that. And can he get ready quickly? See, because I agree with you. I think if you want to control him better, you want to control his innings, his pitches, and you're not relying on him every fifth day, then yeah, you bring him out of the bullpen. I think he'd be effective doing that, honestly. And I think he'd leave Whitlock, don't put Whitlock back, and go that route until you see otherwise, or you see him pitching better, or giving some longer innings, more pitches, longevity in the season a little bit, which for him, longevity would maybe like 2-3 starts. That's it. So I like the idea. I just don't know if he can get himself ready in a game quick enough to, to get in that. Do you?
No, that's a good point. I don't know. I don't know if he can, right? But I think it's better than, like you said, if you put him in as a starter and even let him start out pitching 2 or 3 innings and then try to stretch him, at some point he's going to get a twinge here, there. He'll be back on injured reserve. I think if he's going to give you anything this year, I believe it's going to be in a short role.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe you're right. You're going to have to figure out, can he get ready? And if that's an issue when he can't get ready because he's got a certain routine that he did when he was a starter, then maybe you just use him in one of those opening roles. Say, hey, you're going to go the first 2 innings. We're going to pull you, and then we'll figure it out from there. Maybe that's what they do. Like Tampa Bay did the other day against the Yankees. Maybe that's all they do with them. Listen, you're going to throw 35, 40 pitches. You're out. No matter what you're doing, you're out. And then that's it.
So in essence, he becomes basically a relief guy, only just starting the game.
Starting the game so he can go through his routine, whatever his warm-ups are, whatever that may be. And maybe, so hey, Chris, you figured out how to use Sale.
yeah, just me, But no, I mean, but Mark, we talked about it at the beginning of the season that the new age now is basically all relief pitches. Right. So what the hell's the difference if you use them in the 3rd, 4th, or you use them in the 1st to 3rd, or 3rd to 6th, or 3rd?
And
to
that
5th.
may be the way to use him. You know what? Let him come out, throw 35, 40 pitches, limit him. And at 40, we're pulling you. And maybe if you get to September, October, and it's a playoff game, maybe he could give you 50 or 60 at that point, and maybe that stretches you to 4 innings or something, right? 5 innings maybe, right? If he's on. And I guess maybe that's the ultimate goal, right? To maybe get him to that point. And we don't need you until then. And let's just play this out and see if we can keep you healthy until we get to a wild card game, right?
All things to look for, all things we want you looking at between now and July 23rd when we come back. And, hey, listen, in that time, make sure you call a heated hotline. Let us know throughout the process what you think they're doing. That way we can talk about it, your thoughts in July when we come back. And on the other side, Mark, the Yankees, I mean, they
still have the best record in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, they're rolling along. I mean, they last week you saw at 10 they were what, 9-1 or 10-1 out of 11, the last 11, and then they'll drop a game. And one game they dropped where they had a big lead. And
that was against
Toronto, and then they blew it. And you texted me and said, well, they would do. I mean, they would do for a loss and a breakdown like that. But I'm not sure how much. What do you do? Are there any issues with them, and what should they do, if anything?
Well,
in a way of moves.
I still think that, they got some guys coming back from injury. Don't forget now. They've got Zach Britton, supposed to be coming back to the bullpen. They're hoping maybe late July, early August. Chapman is supposedly getting ready to bring himself back. I don't know if Chapman is going to go back to the closer role. I think Holmes has that pretty solidified. And Chapman said, hey, listen, I don't go to close at this stage in my career. If they want me to be the setup guy in the 8th, I'll come in the 8th and give you an 8th inning, and he gives you a 9th inning. And if he's really has that mentality, hey, great. I think you could use maybe a little bit of pitching depth at the back end of your starting rotation, maybe. Guys that could be middle reliever or starter. I know Domingo Germán is rehabbing. You may get him back at some point. I think they only need some minor tweaks. Chris, maybe you pick up another left-handed bat, maybe, or something. Because I think Joey Gallo's terrible. So do you need? And Hicks plays in spurts. He's hot and cold. Do you need an outfielder?
I think I don't. Again, we're talking now. You
got the best record in baseball.
Right. So, I mean, and you know what? A lot of teams in the past have had the best record in baseball, but they weren't necessarily the best team. I think this is the best team in baseball. in my opinion.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Right now,
yeah,
they stay healthy.
You could use some depth there, or you can use some front line because it's a long season. So yeah, you can use something in the outfield. Talk to me about Castro because
I'll interject though, as you guys are talking about that, somebody just cracked a home run right behind you
for the Yankees.
There
we go.
Just cracked a home run as you guys are talking about them being the best team in baseball.
It's now 3-3 against the Astros. Yeah. So, yeah, but Mark Castro, I mean, because there was some talking about, well, what are you going to do, with him? You bring him back, opening up a game. What do you think?
You could bring it. You could. I mean, listen, they're in a position where, unlike the Red Sox, I think they have a little bit of flexibility because they have so many arms in the bullpen, and their starters have been, for the most part, decently consistent. I mean, the last couple of games, I think the starters haven't given you the length that you want to see out of them. But I think you could. I think that's the one area where the Yankees, in contrasting with the Red Sox, I think have some flexibility, Chris, when it comes to arms and pitching, and because they actually got guys coming back from rehab that are also going to be added into the mix. So that's the one place where I think they could play around a little bit because they have that luxury.
I just didn't know, do you want to disrupt that starting rotation?
At this point, probably not. Probably not at this point.
Because leave him where he is.
Leave him where he is. I mean, you've got, 50, 51 wins? Leave him where he is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Did you see the story about, did you see Buster Olney come out a couple of days ago?
These guys want to drop these bombs,
So Buster
tell
Olney,
everybody what he wrote.
Yeah, so basically he comes out, talks about Judge. Aaron Judge is, up for a contract, and he's going to get paid just $300 million, a massive.
Well, we gambled and we lost that gamble. Instead of just giving him what he was looking for, he wanted like an extra 25 million. We should have did it, and now we're kicking ourselves.
Now they're screwed. Yeah, and so now I mean, so he comes out and says, look, there's these teams in the mix: San Francisco Giants, Mets, to try to get him and land him, and the Boston Red Sox. And we hear that as Yankee fans, and I know all of you are in New England and Red Sox Nation want to. I love that. Not only we bring him in and take him away from the Yankees and kick them in the nuts. Oh yeah, I mean, let's do it. Let's get it done. How can the Yankees let this guy go? How can they let a team sign him?
Listen, I think they're gonna listen. We were talking about this the other day too. So look at their roster the way it's currently constructed. Other than Stanton and yes, Garrett Cole, they really don't have any big money tied up long term. Okay, so I don't see why you can't give him the $300 million. If I had to, next year the National League, you got to hope he stays healthy. Stanton, the National League's going to a full-time DH next year. Maybe somebody's willing to take him off your hands and you alleviate his salary. If he could ever get hot down the stretch and end up with like 40 home runs, maybe somebody bites on his contract. I don't know if they will. But either way, Chris, you have to give Judge whatever he wants. Keep him, because you really don't have a lot of money tied up in long-term money at this point. And listen, that's all BS. The Red Sox, they want to trade Bogarts. They don't want to give him the money. There's a question on what they're going to have to give Devers $300 million to stay there the way he's.
They do both. Right? Can they bring a guy like Judge in and
I don't think,
the Red Sox?
I don't think they will, because I think that's why Bloom's there. I don't think they're spending that kind of money anymore.
What all we've talked about is the small market.
But yet John Henry is giving huge contracts to guys down in Liverpool. Hey. I think that's his focus right now. I think the Red Sox say, hey, manage it, do what we can do, stay competitive, try to make the playoffs. But I think the days of him spending a ton of money, he's not doing that right now. He's won his world championships here, right?
Well, that bodes well for you Yankee fans to get Judge back. And
but I don't know.
We're going to keep track of all of this, throughout the rest of June and into July. And you keep track of it too. Come back July 23rd and make sure you give us a call in between and let us know if some of our predictions are right. But Yankees Red Sox was presented by Special Sauce Podcast. What's your special sauce? Special Sauce Podcast. When we come back, the final Catone's comment of the season is right after this.
It's the Special Sauce With your host, Marcus Aurelius. Tune in to Special Sauce Podcast, wherever you podcast. What's your special sauce? Time for Catone's Comment!
So, as many of you know, obviously, if you're listening to us on iHeart, Podbean, some sort of streaming service, you can't see it, but I've got the cast on my wrist. So, listen, it makes it a little difficult to drive because I'm basically driving with one arm. Okay. Yes, it's a driving story.
Oh, here we go, Joe. Here it is.
If it's the last one of the season,
Bookmark
Joe,
it with the driving.
Close the book. He's dropping the book.
Joe,
Bookmark it.
it's the last one of the season. It
Like
has
the
to be.
bookends, Mark. The bookends. The driving in the one half. And yeah, I get you.
Has to be. Listen, okay. So here's how this plays into this. I've avoided stores. I've avoided them. I've been good. My arm, it's even worse now. You go to these places, you try to find parking spots. You're going to do all this craziness when you go to these stores. So I've been good. Well, yesterday, she sends me to a store. I got to go. So I go. First of all, you got these jerks. They got these big, expensive cars. Hey, great. I'm glad you're driving these $100,000 cars. Hey, good for you. You worry about somebody scratching your car, go park it way in another part of the lot and then walk to wherever you go. No, they're going to park sideways, take up 2 spots. What? What the hell are you doing parking sideways? What is this, a goddamn, like a country bumpkin? What are you doing over here? Right? Just go park someplace by yourself. Very simple. Now, I finally get myself a nice spot. I park, right? I'm getting ready to get out of my car. Some jerk pulls in next to me. Right now, they're not over the line, but they're on the line. They're those cars that park directly on the line, but then they're not in their space. They're no space. The guy gets out and rushes out of the car. I can't even say anything. I said, okay. Now I got the busted wrist. I open my door. I got to be like a contortionist, like Houdini, to get out of the car now because I got no space to open the door with a busted wrist. So now I open the door. Now I'm trying to slither out of the car like a snake with a cracked wrist because this jerk has to park right on the line. So now I get out. Okay, finally get out. I'm sweating. I'm ready to pass out. I get out of the car. I said, okay, I'm out. Wonderful. I go get what I got to get. I come out. The other car next to me, another car pulls in. Do you think they'd pull in between the lines and pull forward? Nope. The back end of their car sticking out. Sticking out. So now I got to back out. Well, Jesus Christ. You're sticking out. Now I got to try to cut the wheel to get out of this spot, not hit the car next to me. I got this other idiot next to me who's half out of the spot. I got one hand to try to do this. All right. So now backing out. I got to worry about the cars in the other row behind me, right? You should have saw. Needless to say, I might have dropped a few inappropriate words pulling out of the spot. Maybe.
You? No.
Maybe. Now, the last thing with these lots, this didn't happen yesterday, but it happens very often. It's crowded. You're waiting for a parking spot. You put your directional on because you're going to pull into a spot. And the guy in the car or the woman in the car is sitting there and they're not moving. And they're waiting. What do they think? I'm driving by. I got my directional on. I'm stopped. I'm waiting for you to come out of the spot. They're playing with their hair. They're flicking their eyebrows. Yeah. They're doing all it. Back out. Show some courtesy. Let me pull in something. So listen, hopefully by the time we come back in July, the wrist is healed. There's no more cash. So I can drive with 2 hands and I can go into these parking lots and be calm. And of course, avoid these lots as much possible, if that's even possible. And that's my wish for when we come back in July.
So, first of all, and I think Joe will back me up on this. Okay, the last thing that we see you as is a contortionist.
Oh boy.
What?
Like, no.
I mean, you know,
I love
it sounds like one of your driving tests.
Should
you know,
be.
like a real live video game where you're looking at the
Listen,
picture
one of
saying,
these days,
"Okay, I got this."
I'm going to put a video in
Like
the
a
car.
stanza with Frogger.
Listen,
No,
I'm going to
the real thing.
I'm going to put a video in the car one of these days when I go to one of these stores, Joe, and I'm going to have you play it.
Yeah.
Just as long as you can put a wheel on the other side too, you know, like in the driving school. But listen, as your attorney, okay, my suggestion to you while you have this thing on your show everybody again the cast of the thing you got over there, yeah. So my suggestion is when this situation happens, somebody's parked the wrong way, somebody's irritating you, which is pretty much what, Joe? Like how many times a day you think somebody is irritating him?
Listen, I've been good though. I haven't had a car story, parking story.
Oh, you have them. You just haven't shared them.
I haven't shared them. I figured it's the season finale. I had to share it.
Okay. What my advice to you is, you get out of the car and you see something like that, especially with that thing on your arm, take the thing off because you can't have pre-existing and just lay under the car next to you. Just lay down, you know, and don't touch me. Don't move me. Get me an ambulance. That's it. You do that a few times. You know what I mean? You'll be in good shape. And then you can put the thing, then you can go and say, hey, look, I got a broken.
You get your own parking spot right there. Everybody gets a parking spot nowadays. I thought that's where you were going to go with it.
This is reserved one, the little sign.
The mother to be, they got a parking spot for
listen,
parking spots for everybody now. Mark gets his own.
That's a good
I like
one.
that, Joe. I like that idea, Joe.
Yeah, reserved for Catone's driving school. You know. Well, listen, Mark, good stuff. It's only appropriate and apropos that you would start the season, Catone comments, with the driving situation, and that you would end it.
That's why I did that today.
Nice two bookends. We like it. So we come back on July 23rd. We'll see what kind of shenanigans Mark's getting into, either with his neighbor on a ladder in the parking lot in the store.
Maybe I'll have a golf cart story if I go golfing.
You go. That's again one of the last things we see you as is on a golf course of all places. So Catone's comments was presented by Studio 42 Designs. And listen, on that note, I think it's time to hear from one of you out in the nation in Heated Hotline. Joe, are we ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Hey, Corso Catone, this is Larry from Somerset. Just want to talk about the trade deadline and Marcus Smart being on the block. And people keep talking about why it's a bad decision to trade Marcus Smart. I disagree wholeheartedly. Get rid of this punk. He sucks. Get rid of him. We would have won the NBA Finals had he not been there. Get rid of him. Get somebody like John Collins from the Hawks and get rid of this Marcus Smart. I don't think it's a bad decision. What do you guys think?
Well, what was it? Somerset. What's his name?
Larry.
Thank you very much, Larry from Somerset.
Right.
Let me ask you something. What do you think Larry's sports superstitions are?
Oh, Larry.
Larry's in the corner with a racing form and a cigar.
Yelling
at the TV.
Larry's tipping a few back, during that call. Listen, Mark, it's something that a lot of people are talking. Thank you, Larry, for the call.
Thanks, Larry.
It. It's something that a lot of people are talking about right now. What do the Celtics need to do? You know, I'll expand on what Larry's talking about. I mean, what should obviously they're close. They came 2 games away from winning the world championship, so they're close. Clearly, we talked about inexperience last week. We talked about different things like that. But when it comes to Marcus Smart, let's go to the caller's point. What do you think? Everybody's kind of split on this. You hear it.
Here's the thing with Marcus Smart. He plays great defense, obviously, right? And he brings an intensity to the team that I don't necessarily know if you have anybody else on the roster that does that. And we've talked about this in the past. So Is somebody like that somebody you need on this roster? Yeah, probably, because he can do some things that nobody else wants to do. Some of the, in hockey, they talk about going into the corners and doing the dirty things on the ice. He does that on the basketball court, right? However, it was glaringly obvious against Golden State that you were short a ball handler. Somebody that could really figure out what was going on, be a floor general, distribute the ball, and do the things that are real pure point. Listen, Marcus Smart isn't a pure point guard. He's playing the point, yes. And from January on, I'm going to give the guy credit. He played fantastic. But he's not a pure point guard. And I know I'm going to get criticized for that because people say, well, what do you need a pure point guard for? Well, in the Golden State series, you needed a floor general on the floor to take control of that game. And we didn't have it, especially when Golden State made runs at us or took leads and you had to settle things down. They just continued to do the same old thing they were doing because nobody could take control. So, yes, what would I do with Marcus Smart? I would listen to offers. I'm not saying 100%, hey, trade him. Listen to offers. But if you get something that is worth it, yeah, dump him. Dump him. If you can. And you know who I want. I don't know if that's possible. And I'll let you expound on that. You know who I want. I've been only saying it for a year and a half.
Yeah, you want Bradley Beal, which, and I'll get that in a second. But as far as Smart goes, yeah, I mean, it was glaring. And the times this season, even after January, where Smart ran into trouble were these teams like Miami, like Golden State, teams that had an issue, teams that could get up on you at the top, in the perimeter. And that kind of defense. And then the ball handling becomes a problem. It was a problem in that series. It cost them. That's what cost them. And we could talk about offensive rebounds too, yes. But the turnovers cost that team. And the two series that they had the most turnovers were Miami and Golden State. And coincidentally, those are the teams that can, play good perimeter defense. So if you want to get over the top for this situation, yeah, I mean, I think you do. I think you need to, if it takes moving him to bring in a good ball handler that can distribute, that can get, that can be guarded at the top and still get through it, still get around it and create spacing for your stars. Yeah, I think you have to do it. Now, how you do it, that's a whole different thing. They gave him last year, 4 years, $78 million, something like that. So do you realize that in the point guard position on this team, they have about $35 million, something like that, invested next year in that position. Some crazy number like that between White and Smart and even Pritchard.
And let me ask you a question. Are you getting $35 million worth of point guard play, do you think?
It depends on how you see it. Depends on how you see a defensive player of the year.
Okay.
I mean, look, we say what we want about Smart, but what he provides to the team, and I do think he's a spark. I do get it. I mean, he provides that punch in the face and that attitude that Tatum just doesn't have, and even Brown, he has it, but it's a little different. But I think the problem with Smart is you got to constantly be on his ass to fall in line in his role. I mean, the report comes out that Udoka had to have a discussion with him and say, hey, look, what you're doing with Tatum and Brown, calling them out like that, you got to cut that crap out. This is them. If you can't handle that, we'll trade you. And then he falls in line. And it starts to see him get right back into it. So there's that issue too. But Mark, will Brown and Tatum, because I don't think Stevens is going to do it. That's his guy. And he even said this week when he came out, he kind of said, there are things you can do and pieces you can bring in that can alter your identity. That's translate that to, I don't want to touch the team too much. I don't want to screw with them, but I think you have to.
So I think
can Brown and Tatum force him out?
Well, obviously, I think they could force him out as the stars of this team if they go to Stevens together and say, look, either he's going or when our contracts are up, we're going. You make a decision. It's either him or us. I think he would choose them over Smart if they're willing to go to that point. I don't know if they are. Okay.
Are they pissed off enough?
I don't know. That we don't know. But I will tell you this. I'll tell you this.
They did it with Kyrie, Mark.
They did do it with Kyrie. But I will tell you this. Were we better off losing in the first or second round of the playoffs because they would have had to have taken a step back and made a move, a bold move, and say, okay, we're not there yet. We got to do something. At that point, they probably do move a guy like Smart and maybe some other pieces to try to bring in that third guy. At this point, you went to the finals. You were 2 wins away. You had a 2-1 lead in the finals. What Steven said, I think in their mind, they think we bring in a couple of ancillary pieces to fortify in different areas, and that's all we need to do. And in my opinion, that's a mistake. If that's your mentality, that's a mistake because I said it when it happened, and I'm going to say it again. If Middleton is healthy, I don't think you beat Milwaukee. And Milwaukee's not going to stand path and say, Milwaukee will add a couple of ancillary pieces. Because I think they realized that they probably should have beaten you and would have beat you if Middleton played. So if the Celtics are naive enough to think, yeah, we're better than Milwaukee, they're not. They wouldn't have beat them if Middleton played. So I think you need more than just a couple of ancillary pieces. And listen, Horford drank from the fountain of youth, Chris. Do you think he's going to give you that again? If you get on a playoff run, like at some point, a decision is going to have to be made about him. And if it's not him, who comes in to fill his role because you need that role?
See, and there's a lot there to unwrap. But
there is.
I can say this. I know what you're saying about Middleton, and I agree. They may not have won that series. However, when you look at that series, when you look at the whole playoff, you see what's going on Boston's side also. You know, Robert Williams, not healthy.
Yeah.
Okay. Tatum, a year, now 25 years old next season. Maybe he steps into that role. Maybe he figures his stuff out. Maybe Pritchard grows a little bit and can handle the ball a little better. Things like that happen. And so do they necessarily 100% lose to Milwaukee constructed the way they are just because of Middleton next year? I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but the pushback you'll get is, no, you know what? There's some things the Celtics can do and will be better also. And when you come 2 games away from winning the whole thing, actually, when you come 5 minutes away from going up 3-1 in the series, which pretty much closes it, okay, how much do you really need to do when you're going to have a healthy Robert Williams back, being able to deal with some of this? We still got the problem at the top of the key and handling the ball. So the argument can be made that ancillary pieces will get this done. Maka, you brought up Horford, okay? And to me right now, one of the 1A of an issue is you have to have a succession plan for Horford. Yeah. I don't know, like you say, how much more is this guy going to give you? You know, now they have these trade exemptions. Okay, so let's just bring that up real quick. They got $17.5 million for the Fournier deal, but I think they got to use that by July 18th. You don't necessarily have to, but if they do, they have to do it then. $7 million for Richardson, $6 million for Schroeder. So, you know, there's a lot of money there. What can you do with that? And what do you think some of the ancillary pieces are? Because Mo Bamba and Jamel McGee are 2 guys that I'm looking at that you can possibly bring in to help this team. What do you think?
Well, Bamba.
They're playing for Orlando. Mo Bamba, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think he could probably give you a little bit of what Horford can give you. McGee, I think, is at the backside of his career. Yeah, I know he can help you. He can give you minutes to spot Williams off the bench, but I don't think he can play the Horford role. I think Bamba might be able to play a little bit more of that role. And I still think you have to look into going after a guy like the caller brought up John Collins. Maybe it's somebody like that, right? Or somebody that fits that type of a mold that can come in off the bench and give you a spot that you don't necessarily have right now. Because listen, the bench, we talked about this, the bench really hurt you in that Golden State series. And it really didn't play that well in the Miami series either, especially Grant Williams. He's somebody I would throw into a package because I think a team potentially may think there's some potential there. I would move on from Grant Williams if you could package him to get something in return. And it's also the guard from Atlanta. I think his name is Hutler, Hutlei, right? He, Chris, can give you. He's a distributor. He can score some points. He can play some defense. He's somebody who I think off the bench may even give you more than White is giving you. Like rather than a Pritchard, you bring a guy like this in
Yeah.
who also can add. So when we talk about ancillary pieces, those are pieces you may be able to bring in. And I'm going to bring up a guy that you've brought up in the past that I know you like. What about looking at like a guy like Damian Lillard from Portland?
Yeah, well, then
Okay,
now
forget
we talk
about Beal. What about him?
Well, you talk about the big splashes. And by the way, out of the two guys I mentioned, the reason I like McGee is because you're not going to get a lot of mistakes out of him. He's got some not championship medal, but good playoff medal with
Yeah,
Phoenix.
he does.
And you're that close. If you're talking long-term prospect, then Mo Bamba, it would be a guy like that. But in the big splashes now, you love Beal. To me, the perfect fit would be Lillard. Now, how you do it, how you make that go. I mean, both of these situations would have to probably be a sign and trade sort of deal, right?
Yep.
Where you're moving some money and you're going to have to say bye to probably Smart. You're going to have to probably say bye to Grant Williams. I'm okay with that. You?
I'm okay with that. And if you got to package some draft picks with it, I would do that too. I'm okay with that. Absolutely.
Now,
I'd even give up some of those younger guys like Naismith who's sitting on the bench. Get rid of them. I don't. If they
now,
want.
see, do you expect anything out of him? Because he's supposed to be a shooter. He's supposed to be a guy. Can he make another? Can he make a jump? Can he contribute something, Naismith?
I don't know. He has shown flashes, but I just don't know if he can make. I don't know. You don't see enough of him. I think he's a liability on defense, and if you can't play defense, Adoko does not like to play you.
No.
But the kid was an unbelievable streaky shooter in college. He would hit a ton of 3-pointers. So yeah. I don't know. Does he make that jump year 3?
We'll
you gotta listen. If you keep him on the roster, you better hope he does, because otherwise, what are you doing with him?
But between Beal and Lillard, Mark, do you find, because I know you're a Beal guy, you've been that, and it's not a bad guy to be, But do you see a problem? Because he's going to want to score the ball. I mean, he wants to get his points too. And do you think that's going to be an issue? Not so much with Tatum because they're buddies, but with Brown.
I think if you're going to make a move like that, I think Udoka's going to and Stevens are going to have to bring these guys together. He's going to have to sit Brown and Tatum down and say, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. This is what it means. We on board with this. You want a ring? This is our ring." And engage Brown's interest in it. And if Brown doesn't want it, I'm not saying don't make the move, but you got to say at some point you're going to have to say to Brown, you're either on the train or you're off the train. But listen, we ain't going to just keep, I don't know. I think Brown would be okay with it for a ring, because he might turn around at the end of his contract and say, okay, now I'm going. But he'd get his ring.
What I think is going to happen.
But he'd get his ring, right?
Right. Especially if he gets a ring.
If you bring an ancillary, okay, so let's play devil's advocate. So you bring in ancillary pieces. Yeah. You don't do the big splash, and you win the ring with the ancillary pieces. Does that guarantee you Brown's leave? Does Brown? He could still leave.
I think he will. I think he will leave, but
because I don't think he likes playing second fiddle to Tatum.
No, he doesn't. I think he thinks he can do more. He can do more. Now, I don't know if he can. I really don't know if he can or not. But what it also does, in your hypothetical here, they've won a championship now, and you know what happens when a team has won. Guys now want to come.
Absolutely.
They want to come there.
Yep.
Okay, the runner-up versus the champion. That's a huge difference. So, what other guys then are going to want to come after that? So
at that point, you don't know. You're right. You don't know.
You don't know what can happen. You got to get the ring.
So now, once you get the ring, you're right, Chris. Once you get the ring, now you become one of those guys, one of those power brokers. Now you can become one of those players, right? You're one of those players that's now a broker and says, okay, listen, here's what we need. Come here. Here's what we need. We're going to win 3, 4, 5 of these things, right? Now you become one of those guys. They're young enough to do that, right? But you got to get the ring.
Well, listen, free agency starts what?
And how about how about Kyrie?
He's giving
ultimatums now.
Yeah, well, they're saying that the Lakers may be a destination for him. Is the Lakers? He could. You know what? That's fine with me. Celtics fans, you're gonna love seeing that. Let the Lakers blow up even more than they already are.
LeBron's gonna go down that road again.
Yeah, I think
with
LeBron's gonna end up playing for Golden State. But listen, all things to look at. They have deadlines coming up now. They have deadlines for the trade exemptions. They have the free agency period is beginning. So
free
if there's
agency
something that's
starts
gonna be,
June 30th that you can stay. I think
yeah, that you
guys
can
can
start,
right? Tampering.
Yep. And then June 1st, July 1st, I think it could be the first day you sign.
Yep.
So their decisions to make quickly. And,
Yeah.
this organization is not used to being this far. I mean, when you go to the finals, you got to move on this. So
Yep.
Stevens has been great. On a side note, listen, for all the crap everybody gave him at the beginning, well, he won't stay, he'll coach. Man, he's done every button he's pushed worked. Every button that guy pushed.
You mean
worked.
in contrast to the management of the Bruins?
Yeah, well, we'll get into that. We're going to see how their offseason goes. So again, Heated Hotline, make sure you call in, email us. We want to hear from you throughout the summer before July 23rd when we come back, because the Celtics are going to do a lot of things before then. So make sure you let us know your thoughts on that. And who are we sponsored by? Heated Hotline and is presented by Corso. Joe. I'm like way.
Yeah, what
out
is
of
wrong? What's happening?
What is?
He's already on summer vacation.
I'm tired. I'm tired. This
Joe,
is what it is.
He's on summer vacation already.
That's because you two made me do a show alone 2 weeks ago. Now I'm exhausted.
He's going back to Joe. He's going back to that show, Joe.
We were going to hear about
it. Heated Hotline was presented by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. CorsoLawGroup.com. Allow us to be your voice. Coming up, hey, let's get you set up for training camp in Real Deal, and that is next.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the Real Deal, New England feel. And so listen, training camp's going to open up for the Patriots mid to end. Mark, look how excited he's getting right now. I'm so excited about it. But training camp's going to open up the end of July, just about when we come back from
rookies report the 19th, veterans the 26th.
Yeah, so we'll be doing a show on the 23rd, get you set up days before, talk about some rookies. But right now, we want to get you set up for training camp now. And we're going to do that in Real Deal. Let's hear it, Joe.
What are you writing now?
So I'm working over here. You're talking about nonsense. I'm working.
That's why we are the Real Deal New England feel. It's going to be real.
So as you say, Mark, full training camp is going to be opening up July 26th. And this is that lull now. Pretty much all the rookies have signed as of today.
Did the guy from Houston sign?
They all signed except for the quarterback, fourth round pick.
Zappy, whatever his name is.
He's holding out for. But Zappy. So, but all the rookies are signed. We're in that lull where they're getting their final break now, and then they're going to come in July. Mark, what are you looking? What should be going on now?
Well, listen, before we get into that, I just have to say.
What, you're going to tell me I did something wrong again?
No. I'm
scarred
looking,
me, Joe.
For those of you who cannot see us because you're listening to us on iHeart or Podbean, Christopher has on a nice blue shirt with the old Patriot logo, Pat Patriot on, which is my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they're bringing back the unis. They're bringing back the red uniforms and the white helmets, and nobody is happier than Chris that they're going to bring those back this year. Right?
Well, I can tell you this. You know why? Because it's honestly, put it this way. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm just a dinosaur. You know,
well, you are.
Well, okay, fine. But my 15-year-old son, okay, shows, Joe, do we have that?
Oh, yeah. I was waiting for that little gap in your conversation to go. I got something special.
I don't know if Mark has seen this.
Mark, have you not seen this?
I probably haven't. They don't share nothing with me anymore.
Let everybody see it.
All right, here we go.
That's great. That was great.
That is unbelievable.
I love the helmet. Chris is
Okay.
showing the helmet for those of you that aren't watching us on YouTube. that promo was unbelievable, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
That is unreal. And I love the Andre Tippett at the end.
At the end,
For those of
right?
you who don't know, that's Andre Tippett. I had to
And
explain that to my son.
Did you see when on Twitter they released that? And who responds? The Tom Brady Twitter account. And he puts up like a GIF, and it's like, oh no, and like in other words, because he loved the red jerseys too, right? He wore it. So listen, and I'm sure. So no matter what he tries to do or separate himself, he still is pulled into.
Never going to be able to.
He's New England. He still loves this place, even though he will never admit it.
No, I know. But you know what? What I love about, well, first of all, to me, it's the best. And like I said, I'm a dinosaur, but my 15-year-old son actually showed that to me last night. And I said, Joe, we got to get this on the show. And he's 15 and he thinks it's the coolest uniform. He said, I don't understand why they don't have that uniform and that helmet. Loves the red shirts, the red jerseys and white pants. I said, with the pinstripes, you know, down the side, the piping. And it is. It's the best looking uniform in football, period. I don't know why they don't go to that 100% of the time.
Well,
nobody would be
understand. Both of you might understand after next week's episode. I think we needed a little superstition break from that uniform for a little while.
We did.
Oh, we've had enough of it, though. We've had enough of it. We're ready to go back.
We did. But listen, Chris, getting back to your original question. I'm sorry I took everybody off track, but your shirt just made me think of the new unis, the throwbacks. It's funny
because you had no idea we were going to play.
I had no clue you were playing that.
Mark.
No clue.
What do you expect to see?
Well, I expect there's going to be a ton of focus on those linebackers. Something you keep bringing up. Listen, the linebackers are going to make or break, I think, Belichick's tenure in New England because he didn't draft a linebacker. And I really want to watch them in training camp and in preseason games, Chris, because if they're a bust, that may lead him out the door because that defense will struggle. And you had so many opportunities to take linebackers in the draft, and you didn't take one. That I'm dying to see what the linebackers do in training camp.
Yeah, because the problem is, hey, look, if you have a few projects there or a few unknowns, couple, 2, 3.
It's the whole unit.
Fine. But the whole unit?
Yeah.
I mean, Judon is really, Bentley has been there, but we think of Bentley. I mean, he's okay in the center for a little bit of short yardage stuff, but he's certainly not an athlete. But there's question marks everywhere else. I mean, Perkins, Jennings, Uche, McCain, Wilson.
The kid McGroon.
McMillan. That's who I meant. McMillan. There's so many damn I don't know.
Unit. Like you said, it's the whole unit.
So you could either be feast or famine. And I agree with you. That's a major, major, major thing to look for when they get into camp. And the other thing, too, staying on that side of the ball, Mark, the secondary. Obviously, J.C. Jackson's gone, and I told you, and I think you agreed, that's not that big of a loss for me, okay? Because wherever he goes, as soon as he tries to lock up in man, I don't think he's going to be as effective. Personally, I don't think. So what do you do at corner? Now you have some guys. I mean, you drafted these guys, the Jones brothers there. But here's the thing. What are they going to be? The ASU kid they're excited about in shorts and T-shirts. We'll see what happens when he gets
like you said, you don't take much stock in that at all.
No, I don't. Not on the defensive side. And we played 7-on-7 game last night. The school, Anyway, so And what the other Jones kid out of Houston, he's still injured. So Wade, guys like that, what are they going to give you? So those are two huge things to look for in training camp when the pads go on. And on the offensive side, Mark, wide receiver, right? What's their depth chart going to look like?
I'm going to tell you something. I think the wide receivers are going to be a pleasant surprise because I think this kid Nixon is the real deal. And I think he's going to keep pushing for a spot and playing time on this roster. I think the kid Thornton that they drafted is the real deal. He's got real game speed. He's got real speed. It's not just, he shows it on film. No, it's real game speed that he can translate it to real action on the field. Like you said, though, Chris, let's see what happens when they put the pads on. Okay, we're going to see. Okay, but I think it's going to translate. Devontae Parker, I think is going to be fantastic. Bourne has developed a chemistry. I think you're going to see him. I think you're going to see an improved wide receiver unit. I really do. And you said all year last year that you thought our running back room was as good as anybody's in football.
Oh, I think so. And I think that they improved. I think they improved it in the draft in the sense of they put big guys in there now that could lead block, that could get in short yarded situations. You're not damaging Harris and Stevenson so much. You're not wearing on those two guys. So the guy's strong. They can do that. And Mark, the other, I love that room. I think we're good at quarterback. I do. I don't think quarterback's an issue last year, and I don't think it's going to be an issue. Offensive line. We talked about the zone blocking.
I know you're worried about the tackles.
I'm worried about the tackles. The guards, from all things you're hearing with Strange, is he's legit.
He's gonna be a first day starter, Chris. Unless he gets hurt. If he stays healthy, he's a first day starter.
Well, they freaking better make him a first day starter. I mean, if they drafted him in the 29th, 8th, 9th pick in the draft, for Christ's almighty, they better be on the field. No, I think the guards are going to be good. I don't know how much Owinu, because you're probably going to be looking at Strange, Owinu, Andrews in that middle, and then the move though, Mark. Trent Brown over the left tackle, and because that's how it looks like it's going to be, and Wynn over to right. You think that's going to work? And what do you think about a depth problem at tackle?
Well, they definitely have a depth problem at tackle. I mean, what do you got? One guy that's going to swing to back both up? I mean, do we even got two tackles? Backup tackle?
Yeah, a couple of guys that have versatility, and then they got
That's what I mean. But listen, Wynn moving to the right side is almost like admitting you drafted a guard to play tackle. You put him at left tackle. It was an experiment. At times he flashed, but it was a failure. So now we're putting him back on the right side. I don't know. It's almost like Belichick's admitting, yeah, that experiment didn't work. He's going to go on the right side, and we're going to put Trent Brown on the left side. I mean, I mean, in my opinion, that's what it looks like to me.
It's one step closer to a step out.
Yeah.
It's one step closer to a step out the door because it's a demotion.
And he can't be happy about that. This is a contract year for him.
Screw him.
No. I understand that. But what I'm saying is, personally, as a player, maybe it'll motivate him a little bit, Chris, because you're playing this is your contract year. You're playing for left tackle money. You get shifted to the right side, right?
Yeah. Well, he'd be lucky if he gets right tackle money too. And then the other thing, I know we're late, but the other thing too, we're going to continue to look at is the coaching. It's what the people want.
Oh, that's going to come up. Yes.
Yeah. And I think it's a little overblown right now. We'll see. But, and is Kraft going to hold Belichick to the standard Belichick sets for himself?
Yes. When players look like they're on the back end of their careers, Belichick says, listen, either take a pay cut or you're out the door. Would he tell Belichick, I'm not paying you $25 million anymore? You're on the back end of your career. You're not showing me anything. Take a pay cut or you're out the door. Well, I don't know if he'll do that.
I'm paying you. You're probably the highest paid coach in football.
He is.
I bring in a rookie coach, pay him a lot less, and probably lose what? One more game, two more games. What's the difference?
Yeah.
I'm still making money.
And I know we're late. We got to go. But hey, Rob Gronkowski retires, Chris, for the second time.
For now.
Well, did you hear the agent say if Tommy calls him during the season? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He just don't want to go to training camp. No. He'll show up in September and play.
He could have just held out. Those two guys are going to play that Brett Favre retirement game for God knows how long. So, gentlemen, it's that time again, and our season finale, our 40th show. Boys, I can't thank you enough for the entire season. Everything was great. Always, Joe, you in the booth handling everything. And listen, you out there joining us. Yeah, all season long, everybody out there on YouTube and iHeart and Podbean and all the rest of the things. We appreciate it. All the heated hotline calls, they've been spectacular. And listen, all summer long, our shows are up. Watch them. Listen to them. Subscribe, thumbs up, follow us, all that stuff. But it's not over yet, is it, Mark?
It is not over yet. We got one more show, superstition show.
One more to go. It's going to be our special show next week.
Nice little bonus show for the fans. How about that?
What's that?
A nice little bonus show for the fans.
Yes, it is a bonus
It's a
show.
bonus.
So make sure you come back next week, 7 p.m. Eastern. And for our sports superstition show, call us. Heated hotline, 855-313-PATS. Email us, corso.catone@gmail.com. We want to hear all your sports superstitions. Make sure you come back next week. And, hey, we'll be ready to go because we are Corso and Catone, and we are the real deal, New England feel. See you next Saturday.